When you show up at your interview, that's your opportunity to close the deal, okay? You show up and your whole objective now is get hired. Convince these people that you're the person for the job. Now, to do that, there's a few different things you have to consider because interview processes are often a lot more complex than just you sitting down with the person you're going to work for and they decide whether they like you or not. That's part of it. That part of it will make or break your deal, but there are also other things to consider. So as far as interviewing goes, we're going to break this down into 4 different parts. This part, I want to talk about you and how to handle yourself in the interview. The next part, when you're dealing with the HR department, assuming they have an HR person that actually interviews candidates, I want you to understand what they're looking for, what they want to hear, and definitely what they don't want to hear. Then there's the actual hiring manager. This is the person that, you would be working for this person. What do they want to hear? What do they not want to hear? And lastly, the other big part of interviewing is a lot of times they will do peer interviews. So it's not just a higher up that's going to be accountable for you or the person you're going to be working under, but a lot of the people that are going to be beside you, your peers, people on the same level or with, technical expertise relevant to what you're doing, they might also be interviewing you. So we're going to look at those different aspects in different talks. But for the rest of this talk, let's talk about you in the interview. The day you show up, what do you look like? What time do you get there? What do you have in your pocket ready to show people? How do you compose yourself? Well, the first thing, and I hope this goes without saying, but don't be late. Show up on time. What does on time mean? On time means about 5 minutes early, okay? If you show up 15 or more minutes early, you look hungry, you look desperate, you look like you don't know how to follow a schedule. Some people will appreciate you being early. Most people will either take it as a sign of desperation and figure that maybe they can get you for less money, or they're just not going to be happy and they're going to leave you waiting because they've got other things scheduled. If you show up 5 minutes early, you're in good shape. If you show up late for a job interview, obviously you don't care about the job. Obviously you're not responsible. Obviously you're going to be late with all of your assignments, with all of your work, with all of your projects. If you're late 15 minutes for your interview, then let's fast forward a year, you're going to be showing up an hour or 2 hours late for work. Why bother with that? Okay? Don't show up late. And don't show up real early either. I don't want to get too far into dress code for an interview because this is cultural. This depends on where in the world you are. But in the United States, don't show up for a PLC programmer interview wearing a damn suit, okay? If you're showing up to sell cars, used cars, show up in a suit. If you're applying to be the pastor of a church, show up in a suit. If you're showing up to work at a suit store, show up in a suit. If you're showing up to program PLCs, show up business casual. Wear a pair of slacks, possibly even jeans, and a nice shirt like a polo tee or even a button-down shirt. That's fine. Definitely not buttoned all the way to the top because you look repressed and uptight and like you don't know how to dress. Dress comfortably. Don't wear Nikes. Probably wear some, dress shoes. Not formal patent leather dress shoes, but a nice pair of loafers. Something suede leather. not something with mesh uppers, or, don't dress like you're going out to play basketball, all right? Business casual, Consider tucking your shirt in. That's usually a good idea for an interview. But if a PLC programmer shows up wearing a tie, it says inexperience, it says desperation. So you show up, you're at your interview, you're on time, you're dressed appropriately, and now you're worried, what do I say? Do I say the wrong thing? When they ask me questions, I don't want to admit that I don't know something. There's a saying, words come easy when they are true, okay? Don't show up at your interview lying your ass off. Because here's the thing, you show up and let's pretend they take you at your word, you lie, you tell them all the great things you can do, and then they hire you. And then a week later, they give you work, you can't handle it, so they fire you. How much better off are you now? Okay? What was the point of that exercise? You just wasted time. Don't show up and bullshit your way through an interview. When you show up for your interview, have the skills, have the knowledge, know your stuff, and when they do ask you a question and you don't know the answer, say, I'm sorry, I haven't gotten into that. I've never worked with that before. I don't know anything about it. This is the first time I've ever heard it. You know what? Maybe that's something that, man, they really need someone who knows this, you don't know it, and then they're not going to hire you because you said that. Good. Good for them, good for you. You don't benefit by getting a job you can't do. Okay? So there's no reason to show up and lie at an interview. If you can't do the job that they hire you for, it's not going to last. Also, it's going to create a gap in your employment history because now, where were you for these 2 weeks? Why weren't you working? Well, I was working, but I was working at a job that I wasn't qualified for because I lied my way into the chair and then they kicked my ass out. No point in doing that, okay? So show up, know your stuff, and, personally, think about it. Isn't it impressive when somebody very quickly says, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that. I could probably figure it out, but I don't know how to do that. Or, I've heard of it, I've seen it done, but I've never done it myself. When somebody shoots that straight with me, that tells me I can trust them. That tells me that when I say, can you do this job? And they say, yes, I can. It means something. But when they're trying to convince me that they can do something that they really can't, okay. So if I give you a big important job, you're going to say, yes, I can. And when I come up and say, where is it? You're going to say, I couldn't. I found out that it was harder than I thought. I was talking out my ass when I told you I could do it. I failed. Now I'm losing money. No. If you can, say you can, do it, and be prepared to demonstrate. If you can't, be very, very quick to say, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that. I'm sorry, I have no experience in that. You know what? I took some training on that a few years ago, but I haven't picked it up since. So I would need a refresher before I tried to jump in and do it again. Those are all very good and acceptable answers in an interview. What's not an acceptable answer is when they say, can you do this? And you say, uh-huh. And in reality, you can't. All right? Last big thing for your part of the interview. We covered punctuality, be on time. We covered dress code. Don't show up in a suit and a tie and looking all desperate and hungry. Like, I need this job more than anything. Show up looking professional and comfortable and relaxed. We talked about honesty. Words come easy when they're true. Don't show up and try to bullshit your way through the interview. Know your stuff. Feel confident about expressing yourself. You know what? Smile while you're talking once in a while. Don't be making a bunch of jokes like you're there, like a clown or something, laughing like a horse. But don't be afraid to grin a little bit and smile. Because, hey, I want to hire somebody who's a good person, who's a nice person, who I get along with. I want to hire somebody like me. I don't want to hire somebody who sits there like this the whole time, scared to death of me, shaking while they're talking and their voice is all cracking and stuff. How does that person handle pressure? Show up, be relaxed, have fun. It's an interview. It's not your executioner. This isn't somebody there deciding whether you live or die tomorrow, okay? This is not a big deal. Show up, be comfortable, talk, tell them what you can do, tell them what you can't do, shake their hand, thank them for their time, walk out the door when you're done. Okay? The last thing that I definitely want you to do when you show up for this interview is bring a laptop and have work that you have done on it. If you have no experience, that's okay. Practice. Are you selling PLC programming? Practice programming PLC. Write some programs. Have those on your laptop ready to show and demonstrate. And put in the person's hand who's interviewing you and say, here's something I created. Please touch it, smell it, interact with it, use it, see how it works. Ask me some questions about how I built it and why I went the route that I did. You have a resume and it says, my name is Paul and I know how to program PLCs. That's great. But you know what? Anybody can put together a resume that says that same thing, whether they even know what PLC stands for or not. What I want you to do, no matter your level of experience, is show up at that interview with proof in your pocket, okay? Have that laptop there, ready to whip it out at a moment's notice and say, let me just show you where I'm at. Let me show you what I can do. Here's something I've created. You're not sure I created it? That's fine. Tell me to create something. Give me an idea of something you'd like to see programmed, and I'll just sit here and I'll walk you through how to program that thing, where to start, where to finish, and we can talk about technique on the way through, whatever makes you happy. But I'm ready to show you what I bring to the table. Okay? You can doubt a resume. There's room to doubt what somebody tells you. But it's real hard to ignore what somebody sits down and shows you right in front of you, right at your face. And then when they light the thing up on a simulator and it works, there's no getting around that. This person has the skills. This person knows how to program. This person is competent. If I give them a project, they're not going to be running around on internet chat line forums trying to figure out what is this, how do I write a PLC program, download another program and call it their own. This person can just sit down and start programming from nothing and create a system. All right? Walk in and demonstrate what you're able to do. Nothing will get the job like demonstrating not just your ability, but also your confidence. And on top of that, when you know how to talk, when you know how to relate to people, when you know how to be friendly and smile and even laugh a little bit, but still be professional and get the job done, I'm telling you, that's the kind of person we all want. That's who I want to work with. That's who I want working for me. That's who I want to work for. We like being around people like that because those kind of people succeed and make other people around them successful. last piece of advice for getting yourself ready for an interview. And that is, if you're nervous, if you're scared of talking to people or people you don't know, if you get anxious about walking into new situations, do what I'm doing right now. Put a camera in front of your face and just start talking to the camera. Talk about your PLC skills. Talk about how your day went. Talk about your plans for next week and where you'd like to go on vacation. I don't care what you talk about, but record yourself talking. See what you look like. See what your expressions are. See how confident you look. Check your posture and your body language. And what you see on camera, that's what the interviewers are going to see in their office, right? And if what you see on the camera says confident, competent, and worthy of making a lot of money, then that's probably what's going to happen. They're going to pay you. They're going to hire you. But if you look at the camera and you see nervous in the service, uptight, scared, wide-eyed, deer in headlight, doesn't know what to say, doesn't know how to speak, and you say, no, I wouldn't pay that person, they're not going to want to pay that person either. So it doesn't hurt. It's free. Record yourself. Play it back. Practice that. Do it a few times. Because it's nerve-wracking when you first start speaking in front of a camera and you first start recording yourself. You get a little anxious. And it's the exact same kind of anxiety you get when you're sitting in front of a new person. It's no different. So if you can conquer the camera and come out and, start swinging, you're ready. You're not having any problems in front of the camera when you're being recorded. When you get to the job interview, same thing. You're confident. You're a PLC programmer. You've got what they need. So all you do is walk in, smile, shake hands, and say, hey guys, where would you like to start today? Okay? That's it for you doing you in an interview. In the next couple of talks, we're going to talk about the other players in those interviews, some of the people that might be interviewing you, what they're looking for, what's on their minds, and that's going to empower you to know how to perform in each of those circumstances. So, ideally, I'll see you in the next talk.